guys, I am Crystal Sky, and today we're going to be reviewing the Canson 180 sketchbook. So I recently did a sketchbook tour of this sketchbook. I finished it to completion. I was a big fan. Let's talk about, so it's black all over. Let's talk about the binding. There's no hard binding here. You can see it's a soft binding. It's a very interesting binding, and because of that binding, it sits flat. So it does sit up a little bit, but it's 180s. That's the whole purpose. It sits flat. Pretty much to any page. Some of these pages are worked, so they do move a little bit, but they sit pretty well flat, which I'm a big fan of. Let's talk about, so it's hardcover, pretty hardcover, and it stood up really well. I got some stickers on it, and they stuck all pretty nice. Let's talk about this metallic magnet clasp here for a minute. So it is pretty claspy, and it keeps the sketchbook pretty closed pretty well. See, I'm shaking it, and it's not opening. So if you throw this in your backpack, I've thrown this in my purse, it worked just fine. It kept the sketchbook closed. The only problem that I foresee anybody having, and I did have with this, is it gets in the way when you're trying to draw, if you see here. So I did have to bend it back and over like this, and as long as I was working on a flat surface, it was fine. But if I was working, say, up like this, I had to bend it back and then forward, and then it would sit flat. Otherwise, it would just sit like this for most of the time. It was pretty annoying. Let's talk about the paper. So these are all fine liners and pens that I use. The Copic markers did bleed through, as you would expect. Where are my watercolors? We were just on them. Okay. So I did some watercoloring here. These are all watercolor sketches, and as you can see, they're very light watercolor sketches, so light sketches work just fine. The paper barely moved at all. I mean, it's a bit wrinkled, but that's about it. It's very little wrinkled, and it didn't bother me at all. These, I used the Arteza brush pens. Ooh, tried pulling one out and almost killed me. I tried using the Arteza brush pens with watercolor pen, not a watercolor pen, just a water pen that you squeeze out the water, and it worked just fine. So if that's how you like to use watercolor, it'll work just fine for you. Just don't cover the whole paper with it or put too much water on. Also, the markers don't really work on here, alcohol markers. Watercolor markers or water-based markers work just fine. As you can see, I'm looking for my Uhuhu marker picture, which is in here somewhere, I'm sure. There it is. So this picture was done with the Uhuhu markers, and if you do this, it did take through the paper well, and it didn't bleed too much on this side, but it bled over on this side and then on to the next page. So always make sure you have something behind. I did this intentionally, and I did a very thick coat to see where it would bleed. So I did this intentionally, but if you don't do this intentionally, put a paper behind it, you know, and it'll probably bleed through as much as mine because I did a really thick coat. So overall, and then let's talk about real quick, these do exist in the front here, just open pages like this, like starting pages. So I've heard people say they leave the first sketchbook page open so as not to stress themselves, but there's a paper in here for that already, so you might enjoy that if you like to leave the first page blank. Granted, you could also draw on them, but they're a different, harder type of paper, and they're a different color. They're blue hue. So let's talk overall really quick. I really liked this sketchbook overall. I finished it to completion, which I don't do for all of my sketchbooks. The hardcover was nice. The metallic clasp was a little annoying, but it was fine after I figured out how to use it. The binding laid flat for most of the time. Granted, it doesn't lay flat all the time when the watercolor pages happen. So these are all watercolor pages, and they are the ones that stick up. But they only stick up a little bit, and if you have your hand here, it doesn't matter. Like, they stick up very little, right? So overall, I like the sketchbook. If you like a sketchbook with a metallic binding, you can actually fit a pen in here. Not a big pen. So this is a sketching pencil that I use quite often. It's a colored sketching pencil. It fits in there, and it holds it in pretty good, and I'm shaking it, nothing's happening, it's not moving or anything. So if you do like to keep like one pencil with the sketchbook, that's a cool feature. This is the Canson 180 sketchbook. It's pretty small. I don't know the dimensions because I threw the paper away a long time ago. But I wanted to give you guys a review. I would definitely give this a thumbs up if you come across it in a store. I got this at a discount. I think I got it for less than $10. It was in the discount section of Hobby Lobby. So if you find it, especially at a discount, pick it up. It was definitely worth the price. Alright guys, I will see you later for more sketchbook reviews, more arts reviews, pretty much everything. I will see you guys later. Bye.